The stars had never looked so cold to Admiral Park Do-yoon as they did on that day. He stood on the bridge of the ESS Indomitable, Earth's finest warship, watching the massive alien station grow larger on the view screen. Behind him, 12 human ships held formation. It was everything humanity had. Their best technology, their bravest soldiers, their hope for a place among the stars. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission," said Captain Yoon Hana from her station. She was young, but her eyes were sharp like a hawk. Park had chosen her personally for this mission. "They are opening a docking channel." Park nodded slowly. "Tell all ships to hold position." "We go in alone." The Indomitable moved forward, passing through a shield barrier that glowed like blue fire. Inside the station, Park could see hundreds of alien vessels. Some were small, fast-looking ships. Others were giants, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each one hummed with energy that made his instruments go crazy. This was the Valoran hegemony. 12 alien races united under one banner. They had ruled the galaxy for 40,000 years. And today, they would meet humanity for the first time. The docking was smooth. Park straightened his uniform and walked to the airlock with Captain Yoon and 10 of his best soldiers. The door opened with a hiss, and they stepped into a world of light and noise. The station's interior was beautiful and terrifying. Walls of living crystal pulsed with soft colors. Aliens of all shapes moved through wide corridors. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated. Some crawled on many limbs. All of them stopped to stare at the small group of humans. Park kept his face calm. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. A tall creature approached them. It stood 3 meters high, with gray skin that looked like stone and 4 arms that ended in delicate fingers. Its eyes were black pools that reflected no light. When it spoke, the translator in Park's ear turned the sounds into words. "I am High Sovereign Moltric of the Valoran hegemony. You are the humans." It was not a question. "I am Admiral Park Do-yoon of the United Earth Fleet," Park replied. "We come in peace, seeking friendship and trade." Moltric made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace. Yes. All young species speak of peace when they first crawl out of their birth worlds." He gestured with 2 of his arms. "Come. The Council wishes to see what kind of creatures you are." They walked through endless corridors until they reached a massive chamber. Hundreds of aliens sat in floating chairs arranged in circles. At the center was an empty space where Park and his people were led to stand. He felt like an animal in a cage. "The integration protocols require a demonstration," Moltric announced to the crowd. "The humans will show us their military capabilities. This will determine their status within the hegemony." Park had expected this. He looked at Captain Yoon, who nodded. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing images of human weapons. "Our primary ship weapons are railguns," Yoon explained. Her voice was steady. "They use magnetic fields to accelerate metal projectiles to very high speeds. The impact force can destroy most targets." She showed videos of railgun tests. Tungsten rods punching through thick metal plates. Asteroids shattering into dust. The aliens watched with expressions that were hard to read. "We also use nuclear weapons for large targets," Yoon continued. "And our soldiers carry chemical propellant firearms. Small metal projectiles pushed by explosive reactions." She showed Marines training with rifles. Bullets tearing through targets. For a moment, there was silence. Then the laughter began. It started with one alien, a creature with too many mouths. Then another joined. And another. Soon the entire chamber was filled with sounds of amusement. Different species laughed in different ways. Some howled. Some clicked. Some vibrated. But they were all laughing. Park stood perfectly still. His face showed nothing. My sovereign Moltric raised his arms for silence. His black eyes looked down at the humans with something like pity. "You throw rocks," he said. "You use chemical fire to push metal. These are weapons from the childhood of civilization. We abandoned such primitive tools 10,000 years ago. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons," another alien explained, still making laughing sounds. "Plasma, lasers, particle beams. But kinetic weapons? Physical projectiles? They are so slow, so weak. We do not even consider them a threat. Our shields treat them as space debris." "You are like infants bringing wooden sticks to a war of gods," Moltric said. "But do not worry, little humans. The hegemony is generous. We will give you protectorate status. You will pay tribute, follow our laws, and in time, perhaps in a few thousand years, you may develop into a proper civilization." Park felt Captain Yoon tense beside him. He placed a gentle hand on her arm. "Not yet. We accept your generous offer," Park said. His voice was humble. "We have much to learn from the great Valoran hegemony." Moltric seemed pleased by this response. A wise answer. "Perhaps there is hope for your species." He waved his arms dismissively. "You may go. Report to the integration office for your protectorate documentation." As the humans were led out of the chamber, Park walked slowly. But his eyes were not looking at the floor in shame. They were looking at everything. The walls, the technology, the weapons carried by guards. He was memorizing every detail. Captain Yoon walked beside him. "Admiral," she whispered, her voice tight with anger. "They laughed at us. They called us primitives." "Yes," Park said quietly. "They did. How can you be so calm?" Park glanced at her. For just a moment, something dangerous flickered in his old eyes. "Because they made a mistake, Captain. The worst mistake any enemy can make." "What mistake?" "They told us exactly how their shields work." Park's voice was soft as snow falling on a grave. "They told us their shields ignore kinetic weapons. They consider them debris." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They laughed at our rocks, Captain. They forgot that rocks can kill giants." The humans returned to their ship. The Indomitable undocked and rejoined the fleet. As they prepared to jump back to Earth, Park stood alone on the observation deck, watching the alien station shrink in the distance. Captain Yoon found him there an hour later. "Sir, we are ready to depart." Park did not turn around. "Tell all ships to transmit their sensor data to Earth Command using our highest encryption. Every scan, every reading, every frequency their technology uses." "Yes, sir." "May I ask why?" Now Park turned. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fire. "Because one day, Captain, we are going to come back here. And when we do, we will not be laughing." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, leaving the Valoran station behind. 3 weeks later, Park stood before the United Earth Council in a bunker deep beneath the mountains. The room was filled with the most powerful leaders on the planet. They had all seen the recordings. They had all heard the laughter. "They think we are children," Park said. "They think our weapons are toys. They have given us protectorate status, which means we are their subjects, their servants." He paused. "But they have also given us something else. Information. Their shields are not designed to stop what we have. They have not fought a kinetic war in 10,000 years." The council members leaned forward. "What are you suggesting, Admiral?" the Secretary General asked. Park placed his hands on the table. "I am suggesting that we prepare. Quietly. Carefully. Let them think we are harmless primitives. Let them laugh." His voice dropped to a whisper that carried through the silent room. "They have forgotten what rocks can do. We are going to remind them. The room was silent for a long moment. Then the Secretary General nodded. "Tell us what you need." Park smiled. It was the smile of a wolf watching sheep build their pens. "Time," he said. "Give me time. I will give you the galaxy." 10 years passed like water flowing under a bridge. To the Valaran hegemony, humanity was a quiet protectorate. Humans paid their tribute on time. They followed the laws. They bowed their heads when Valaran ships visited their worlds. They seemed like good, obedient subjects. The hegemony was pleased. Another primitive species had been tamed without effort. Just as it had always been. Just as it would always be. They did not see what was happening in the shadows. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon, Dr. Beek Jisoo walked through corridors that did not exist on any map. The Lunar Research Station was humanity's greatest secret. 5,000 scientists lived and worked here, hidden from Valaran sensors by layers of lead and signal-blocking technology. Jisoo was a small woman with tired eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She had not seen the sun in 3 years. She had not seen her family in 5. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the weapon on her screen. "Run the simulation again," she said to her assistant. The holographic display showed a simple object. A rod of tungsten, 2 meters long and 30 centimeters wide. Nothing special to look at. Just a piece of metal. Then the simulation started. The rod accelerated. Faster and faster. Numbers climbed on the screen. 10% of light speed. 20%. 30%. The rod hit a target shaped like a Valaran warship. The shield flickered blue, treating the object as debris, letting it pass through with only minor resistance. The rod struck the hull. The ship disappeared. Not exploded. Disappeared. The kinetic energy released was equal to a small nuclear bomb. The vessel simply stopped existing. Jisoo let out a breath she had been holding. "It works." Her assistant, a young man named Kwon Junho, stared at the screen with wide eyes. "Doctor, the energy transfer is incredible. One rod does this much damage? One rod moving at 30% of light speed carries more destructive power than anything the Valarans have seen in 10,000 years. Jisoo replied. Their shields stop energy weapons by dispersing the energy across the shield surface. But kinetic force? Mass times velocity? There is no way to disperse that. The energy has to go somewhere. She smiled grimly. And it goes into their ships. This was the Hammer Protocol. Humanity's answer to alien arrogance. Far from the moon, on a space station orbiting Mars, General Choi Tae-yang reviewed ship designs with his commanders. He was a big man with a scarred face and hands that had killed in 3 wars on Earth before humanity reached the stars. Now he was building an army to fight gods. The Spectre-class destroyers are ready for testing, reported one of his officers. Minimal energy signature. No plasma weapons. No shields that can be detected. Just engines, life support, and kinetic launch systems. Tae-yang studied the ship's image. It was ugly, blocky, no smooth lines or glowing lights like Valaran vessels. It looked like a metal brick with engines attached. It was perfect. How many can we build in secret? He asked. If we use the hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt, we can produce 50 ships per year without detection. Tae-yang did the math in his head. 10 years of production. 500 ships. Each ship carrying 2,000 kinetic rounds. 1 million projectiles of pure death. Begin production, he ordered. And start training crews. I want pilots who can fly these ships like they were born in them. In a testing facility on the edge of the solar system, Lieutenant Shin Yoonji climbed into the cockpit of the first Spectre-class destroyer. She was 26 years old, the best pilot in the fleet, and absolutely terrified. The ship hummed around her, No comfortable glow of shield generators. No reassuring whine of plasma cannons charging. Just cold metal and silent weapons. Beginning stealth approach test, Yunji reported through her radio. Target is the sensor buoy at coordinates 773. She pushed the engines forward. The ship moved like a ghost through space. On her screen, she watched the sensor buoy scan the area around her. Its detection beam passed over her ship again and again. Nothing. The buoy did not see her. Yunji grinned. Approaching to weapons range. Preparing to fire kinetic rounds. She pressed the trigger. A dozen tungsten rods shot from her ship at impossible speed. They crossed the distance in a heartbeat and struck the buoy. The buoy exploded into fragments. Target destroyed, Yunji reported. The Spectre works, General. They cannot see us. And they cannot stop us. Across human space, similar preparations were happening in secret. Underground bunkers were filled with weapons and supplies. Young men and women trained in combat tactics that had not been used in centuries. Guerrilla warfare. Ambush techniques. How to kill enemies who thought they could not be killed. Every human world had hidden bases. Every human citizen knew the plan. When the time came, they would all fight. The Valorans visited sometimes. They inspected human cities and found nothing wrong. They scanned human ships and found only old, primitive technology. They interviewed human leaders and heard only words of loyalty and respect. The humans are well behaved, reported one Valoran inspector to High Sovereign Moltrek. They show no signs of rebellion. They seem content with their place. Moltrek waved a hand dismissively. Of course they are content. What choice do they have? Their weapons are toys. Their ships are slow. They know they cannot fight us. He made a sound of satisfaction. In another 1,000 years, they might be useful servants. What Moltrek did not know was that the inspector had only seen what humans wanted him to see. The real weapons were hidden. The real ships were invisible. The real plan was growing stronger every day. In her laboratory on the moon, Dr. Beek Jisoo worked on the final piece of the puzzle. Her team had captured a Valaran shield generator during a secret mission disguised as a mining accident. Now they understood exactly how it worked. The shield creates a field of dispersed energy, Jisoo explained to General Taiyang during a secure call. Any energy weapon that hits it gets spread out across the entire field. Very effective against plasma and lasers. She paused. But the field has a minimum threshold. Objects below a certain energy level pass through with reduced resistance. The Valorans set this threshold to filter out space dust and small debris. And our kinetic rounds? They pass through. The shield treats them as debris. Jisoo's tired eyes sparkled with something dangerous. They never thought to protect against rocks, General. They have not fought a kinetic war in 10,000 years. They forgot that rocks can kill. Taiyang nodded slowly. When will we be ready? Our weapons are ready now. Our ships are ready. Our soldiers are ready. Jisoo took a deep breath. We are just waiting for the spark. Something to justify the fire. That spark would come soon. Neither of them knew how soon. But when it came, humanity would be ready. On the last day of the 10th year, Lieutenant Shin Yunji completed her final training mission. She guided her Spectre destroyer through an asteroid field without making a single mistake. She fired 100 kinetic rounds and hit 100 targets. She was ready for war. As she landed her ship, she looked up at the stars through her cockpit window. Somewhere out there, the Valorans sat in their beautiful ships, surrounded by their glowing shields, confident in their power. They had no idea what was coming. Dr. Beek Jisoo stood in her laboratory, watching a weapons test on her screen. A single tungsten rod destroyed a mock Valoran cruiser in a flash of fire and metal. She thought about the laughter in that council chamber 10 years ago. The aliens pointing at human weapons and making sounds of amusement. The way they had called humanity primitives and infants. You laughed at us, Jisoo whispered to the empty room. You called our weapons toys. You said we throw rocks. She watched the destruction on her screen one more time. Let me show you what primitives can do. The colony of New Bizen was a small world on the edge of human space. 50,000 people lived there, mostly farmers and miners who had left Earth looking for a simpler life. They had green fields, clean air, and children who played under an orange sun. Commander M. Sung-ho had grown up there. His parents still lived in the small house where he was born. His sister taught at the local school. His grandmother made kimchi the old way, in clay pots buried in the ground. It was a quiet place. A peaceful place. Until the Valoran ships came. Sung-ho was visiting home when the first warning came. He was sitting with his family, eating dinner, when his military communicator buzzed with an emergency signal. All military personnel report immediately. Valoran fleet entering system. This is not a drill. He ran outside and looked up. The sky was filled with shapes blocking out the stars. 12 Valoran warships hung above the colony like birds of prey. A voice boomed from speakers across the city. It was the Valoran governor of the sector, a creature called Varones. Humans of New Bizen, you have failed to pay your tribute for 3 months. This is a violation of protectorate law. The penalty is correction. Sung-ho's blood went cold. He knew what correction meant. People started running through the streets. Parents grabbed children. Elderly people were helped by younger ones. Everyone was trying to reach the underground shelters. But Sung-ho knew they would not make it in time. He tried to call his family. The line was dead. He tried to reach his ship. It was too far. He could only watch. The Valoran ships opened fire. Not with precision strikes against military targets. They fired at everything. Plasma beams cut through buildings like knives through paper. Homes exploded into fire. Schools became graves. The green fields burned black. Sung-ho fell to his knees. He watched his childhood home disappear in a flash of light. He watched the school where his sister worked collapse into rubble. He watched 30,000 people die in less than 10 minutes. When the firing stopped, nothing was left. Where a colony once stood, there was only ash and silence. Sung-ho sat in the ruins for hours. His uniform was covered in dust. His face was streaked with tears that had dried long ago. He did not move. He did not speak. He just stared at the place where his family had been. A rescue shuttle found him the next morning. The medics said he was in shock. They tried to treat him. He pushed them away. "I am fine," he said. His voice was flat and empty. "Take me to Fleet Command." Ambassador Kano Maire had been on the planet's orbital station when the attack happened. She had recorded everything. Every shot. Every explosion. Every death. Now she sat in her quarters, staring at the footage on her screen. Her hands were shaking. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She had seen difficult things, but nothing like this. Her communication officer knocked on her door. "Ambassador, the Valorans are demanding we delete all recordings of the incident. They say it was a necessary correction and not to be discussed." Myri looked at the footage one more time. A child running through the streets. A flash of plasma. The child gone. Something cold and hard formed in her heart. "Connect me to Earth's emergency broadcast system," she said. "Maximum encryption. All channels. Ambassador, that will reach every human world. And possibly other species too. The Valorans will... I know what the Valorans will do." Marie's voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "Connect me now." Within an hour, the footage was everywhere. Every human world saw what had happened to New Bizen. Every human citizen watched 30,000 of their brothers and sisters die. And the broadcast did not stop at human space. Other protectorate species received it too. Other races who had been conquered by the hegemony. Other people who lived under the Valoran boot. The galaxy watched. And the galaxy was silent. The United Earth Council met in emergency session. The room was full of angry faces and clenched fists. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood before them, his old face hard as stone. They killed 30,000 civilians for missing 3 months of tribute, said the Secretary General. Her voice shook with rage. Children, families, innocent people. This is who they are, Park said quietly. This is what they do to species they consider beneath them. They have done it for 40,000 years. They will continue doing it forever. He paused. Unless we stop them, can we win? Asked a council member. They have 10,000 ships. We have 500. Park looked around the room. I have spent 10 years preparing for this moment. Our weapons work. Our ships are ready. Our people are trained. He straightened his back. We cannot win by matching their numbers. But we do not need to. We need to break their spirit. We need to show them that humanity will not bow. We need to make them afraid of the primitives they laughed at. The vote was unanimous. War was declared. Commander M. Sung-ho was given command of the First Strike Force, 6 Spectre-class destroyers, hidden in the asteroid belt near Valoran patrol routes. His mission was simple. Wait for the enemy and show them what human weapons could do. He stood on the bridge of his ship, the HFY Vengeance. His crew was silent. They all knew what had happened to New Bizon. Many of them had lost family there too. Contact, reported his sensor officer. 12 Valoran warships entering our sector. They are scanning for us. Sung-ho watched the enemy ships on his screen. They were beautiful in a horrible way. Sleek designs with glowing shields. Each one 100 times the size of his destroyer. Each one carrying enough firepower to burn a planet. They could not see him. His ships were ghosts. Target the lead vessel, Sung-ho ordered. All ships, prepare kinetic launch. Fire on my command. The Valoran ships moved through space without care. Their shields hummed with power. Their commanders were relaxed. What did they have to fear? No protectorate species had ever attacked them. No primitive weapon could hurt them. Fleet Master Varanis himself was on the lead ship. The same Varanis who had ordered the destruction of New Bizon. He was reviewing reports, bored, waiting for this patrol to end so he could return to more interesting duties. His sensor officer looked at her screen with confusion. Fleet Master, I am detecting some strange readings. Small objects on approach. Very fast. Varanis waved a hand. Debris. Ignore it. They are moving in formation, Fleet Master. 6 sources. Before Varanis could respond, the first kinetic round hit his ship. The shield flashed blue and let the debris through. The tungsten rod, moving at 30% of light speed, struck the hull. The explosion was massive. The ship's middle section simply disappeared. The front and back halves drifted apart, atmosphere and bodies spilling into space. Varanis never even had time to understand what was happening. Across the patrol fleet, 11 more ships died in the same way. Shields that had stopped plasma weapons for centuries let tungsten rods pass through like they were not even there. Ships that had conquered 100 worlds were torn apart in seconds. The entire battle lasted 90 seconds. When it was over, Commander Im Sung-ho looked at the debris field on his screen. 12 Valoran warships. Thousands of alien crew, gone. His communications officer spoke softly. Sir, should we send a message to command? Sung-ho thought about his family. His parents. His sister. His grandmother and her clay pots. All of them ash now. Yes, he said. Tell them the war has begun. Tell them new business is avenged. He paused. And tell them this is just the start. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle footage in stunned silence. The mighty Valorans, defeated in 90 seconds. By primitives. By creatures who threw rocks. In hidden places, on conquered worlds, enslaved people began to whisper. If the humans could do it, maybe they could too. Maybe the hegemony was not as strong as it seemed. Maybe freedom was possible. The spark had become a fire. And the fire was spreading. High Sovereign Moltric stood in his command center, watching reports scroll across his screens. Each report brought worse news than the last. Valoran ships destroyed at the border. Supply lines cut by ambush. Patrol fleets vanishing without a trace. How is this possible? He demanded. His forearms trembled with rage. They are primitives. They throw rocks. Our shields should stop everything. His military advisors stood in nervous silence. None of them wanted to speak first. Finally, one stepped forward. A scientist with silver scales and 6 eyes. High Sovereign, we have analyzed the human weapons. They are using kinetic projectiles accelerated to extreme velocities. Our shields are designed to stop energy weapons. They treat slow-moving physical objects as debris and let them pass. He swallowed hard. The humans knew this. They built their entire strategy around it. Moltrek's black eyes widened. Then changed the shields. Make them stop kinetic weapons. That would require completely redesigning our shield technology. It would take 50 years of development. Maybe longer. Moltrek swept his arm across the room, knocking equipment to the floor. We do not have 50 years. We are losing ships every day. Then, we must fight without shields, another advisor said. Use our numbers. We have 10,000 ships. They have a few hundred. Overwhelm them with force. Moltrek nodded slowly. Yes, gather the fleet. All of it. We will crush these primitives with numbers they cannot imagine. They think they are warriors? His voice dropped to a growl. Show them what real warriors look like. The Valoran Armada gathered at Proxima, a strategic point between human and Valoran space. 2,000 warships filled the sky like an ocean of metal and light. The largest fleet assembled in 1,000 years. Admiral Park Do-hyun watched them from the bridge of his flagship. He had 200 ships, less than a tenth of the enemy force. By any reasonable calculation, he should retreat. He should hide. He should surrender. Park was not a reasonable man. Captain Yoon, status report, he said calmly. Captain Yoon Hana looked up from her tactical display. She had been promoted to command of the carrier, ESS Retribution, after her brilliant work in the early battles. Now she coordinated all human attack wings. All ships report ready, Admiral. Kinetic magazines are full. Microjump drives are charged. Park nodded. And the Spectre squadrons? In position. The Valorans do not see them. Park smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Then let us begin the lesson. The Battle of Proxima started with silence. The Valoran fleet advanced in perfect formation, shields glowing, weapons charged. They expected the humans to run. They expected fear. The humans did not run. Instead, they vanished. The human ships activated their micro-jump drives, a technology they had developed in secret. They disappeared from one location and appeared in another, faster than Valoran sensors could track. One moment they were in front of the fleet. The next moment they were behind it. Then beside it. Then inside the formation itself. Valoran commanders shouted orders. Fire at the humans. Destroy them. But by the time their weapons were aimed, the humans were gone again. And with each appearance, the humans fired. Kinetic rounds by the thousands. Tungsten rods screaming through space at impossible speeds. They passed through Valoran shields like the shields were not there. They punched through hulls. They shattered engines. They killed. Incoming! Screamed a Valoran captain just before his bridge exploded. Our shields are not working, cried another before his ship broke in half. They are everywhere, howled a third before silence took him. Captain Yunha flew her carrier through the battle like a dancer. Her ship launched fighters that swarmed enemy vessels, distracting them while destroyers moved in for killing shots. She coordinated attacks across the entire fleet, seeing patterns that others missed. Alpha Wing, target the command ship's engines, she ordered. Beta Wing, cover their approach. Gamma Wing, I see a gap in Sector 7. Hit it now. The humans fought like wolves among sheep. They were smaller. They were weaker. But they were faster, and they were vicious, and they never stopped moving. After 4 hours, the battle ended. 1,400 Valoran ships drifted dead in space. The rest retreated in panic. Humanity lost 31 ships. News of Proxima spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The mighty hegemony defeated by primitives. 2,000 ships against 200, and the primitives won. Unconquered worlds, enslaved species began to rise. Factory workers sabotaged Valoran equipment. Servants poisoned their masters. Soldiers turned their weapons on their commanders. A leader emerged among the rebels. Her name was Kira, from a species called the Thalocs. Her people had been slaves for 2,000 years. Now she organized them into an army. The humans have shown us the truth, she told her followers. The hegemony can be beaten. They are not gods. They are just bullies who forgot how to fight. She raised her fist. Now we fight back. Kira contacted Admiral Park through secret channels. Human, she said, my people wish to join your war. We are not soldiers. We do not have ships, but we can hurt the hegemony from inside. Give us the word, and we will rise. Park looked at the strange alien on his screen. She had blue skin and 4 eyes, and spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. She was nothing like him, but he saw something familiar in her eyes. The same fire. The same hunger for freedom. When we attack their homeworld, he said, rise with us. Hit everything you can. Supply lines, communication centers, shipyards. Make them fight on 2 fronts. Kira showed her teeth. Among her people, it was a smile. It will be done. High Sovereign Moltric received report after report of disaster. Ships lost. Worlds in rebellion. Resources running out. His empire was burning. Build new shields, he ordered his scientists. Kinetic shields. Anything that can stop their weapons. It will take years, they protested. Then work faster. But Moltric knew the truth. They did not have years. They might not even have months. The humans were coming, and nothing seemed to stop them. He thought about that day, 10 years ago, when the human admiral had stood in his council chamber. He remembered laughing at their primitive weapons. He remembered calling them infants playing with rocks. The rocks were killing his people now. Captain Yunhana led the next major attack herself. A raid on a Valoran shipyard where 300 new warships were being built. If those ships launched, they could turn the war. She took 20 destroyers and 40 fighters. It was not enough for a direct assault. But Yun did not believe in direct assaults. Her fleet jumped into the system at the darkest point, where Valoran sensors were weakest. They drifted in silence, engines cold, looking like nothing more than space debris. Then they were inside the shipyard's defense perimeter. All ships, fire at will, Yun ordered. Kinetic rounds tore through the construction frames. Ships that would have carried thousands of Valoran warriors exploded before they could ever fly. Fuel tanks burst. Ammunition stores detonated. The shipyard became a sphere of fire and twisted metal. Yoon watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. "That is for New Bizon," she whispered. "And for every other colony they burned." When the raid was over, 300 Valoran ships were scrap. Humanity lost 2 destroyers. Admiral Park received the news with a quiet nod. "The tide is turning," he told his staff. "But the war is not over. Not until we reach their homeworld. Not until they surrender." He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, High Sovereign Moltric was planning his next move. The hegemony still had thousands of ships. They still had resources. They could still win if humanity made a mistake. But Park did not intend to make mistakes. "Prepare the Liberation Fleet," he ordered. "Contact all allied species. Tell them the time has come." His old eyes hardened with determination. "We finish this at Valora Prime." The Liberation Fleet gathered at the edge of Valoran space. 500 human warships, their hulls dark and silent, weapons loaded with death. But they were not alone. 2,000 more vessels joined them, ships from a dozen species that had suffered under hegemony rule. Some were old and battered. Some were small and weak. But every single one carried the same fire in their hearts. Admiral Park Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the fleet spread across the stars. Beside him, the holographic image of Kira of the Thalox flickered with blue light. "My people are ready," Kira said. "When you attack Valora Prime, we will rise across the galaxy. Every factory, every supply depot, every communication center. They will all burn." Park nodded. "Then today, we end 40,000 years of tyranny, Admiral." The voice came from Dr. Baek Jisu, who had come aboard for this final mission. She looked tired, but her eyes were bright with purpose. "Project Sunfall is ready. I hope we do not need it." Park understood. Project Sunfall was humanity's final weapon. A device that could destabilize stars, turning them into bombs that destroyed everything in their systems. It was a terrible thing. A weapon that should never exist, but against an enemy that burned colonies for missing tribute. Humanity needed terrible things. "It is a deterrent," Park said. "Nothing more. We are not here to destroy. We are here to liberate." The fleet jumped to Valora Prime. High Sovereign Moltrek had gathered everything he had left. 4,000 warships surrounded his homeworld in layers of defense. Ancient battle stations, some older than human civilization, powered up weapons that had not been fired in millennia. This was the heart of the hegemony. It would not fall easily. Moltric watched the enemy fleet appear on his screens. Humans, Thalox, Kryn, Savathi, a dozen species that should be bowing to his power. Instead, they came to challenge him. "Destroy them all," he ordered. "Show them the price of rebellion." The Battle of Valora Prime began with fire and fury. The Lauren ships launched waves of plasma and laser fire. Ancient weapons that had conquered the galaxy lit up space with deadly light. Human ships danced through the barrage. Their micro-jump drives made them impossible to target. They appeared, fired, vanished, appeared again somewhere else. Kinetic rounds punched through Valoran hulls as if they were made of paper. But this time, the Valorans were ready to die. They had nowhere to run. This was their home. Captain Yoon Hana led the carrier wing into the heart of the enemy formation. Her fighters swarmed around Valoran battleships, distracting them while destroyers moved in for killing shots. "Enemy fire concentrated on Sector 4, her tactical officer reported. "We are losing ships." Yoon gritted her teeth. The Valarans were fighting harder than ever before. They knew this was the end. They had nothing left to lose. "All wings, Concentrate fire on their command ships, she ordered. Cut off their heads and the body will fall. A massive explosion rocked her carrier. Warning lights flashed across her bridge. Hull breach on deck 7. Engines at 60%. Yoon did not hesitate. Keep fighting. We stop when they surrender or when we are dead. Commander Sung-ho led the ground assault. His dropships fell through Valora Prime's atmosphere like metal rain. Protected by clouds of kinetic fire that cleared the anti-aircraft weapons below, they landed in the ancient capital, a city of crystal towers and floating platforms that had stood for 30,000 years. Valoran soldiers rushed to meet them, armed with energy rifles and plasma grenades. The fighting was brutal. Humans advanced street by street, building by building. They were outnumbered and outgunned. But they had something the Valorans did not. They had rage. Sung-ho thought of New Bizen with every trigger pull. He thought of his family with every step forward. He was not fighting for victory. He was fighting for vengeance. And vengeance made him unstoppable. "Commander, we have reached the palace," reported one of his officers. "Heavy resistance at the main gate." "Then we go through," Sung-ho said. "All units advance." In space, the battle was reaching its climax. Hundreds of ships on both sides burned and died. The Liberation Fleet was winning, but the cost was terrible. Admiral Park watched the destruction with a heavy heart. So many lives lost. So much pain. Was it worth it? Then he remembered the laughter in that council chamber. He remembered the burned colony of New Bizen. He remembered all the species who had been enslaved, all the worlds that had been conquered, all the freedom that had been stolen. Yes, it was worth it. "Admiral," his communications officer spoke with urgency. "We are detecting a massive energy signature from the planet's surface. Something is powering up." Park's blood went cold. "What is it?" "Unknown. But the energy output is enormous. It could be a weapon." Park connected to Commander Sung-ho on the ground. "Commander, the enemy is activating something. Find out what it is and stop it." Sung-ho was already moving. He had heard the same reports. His soldiers fought their way through the palace, leaving trails of bodies behind them. The Valoran guards tried to stop them. They failed. Finally, Sung-ho reached the throne room. And there, standing before a massive control panel, was High Sovereign Moltrick himself. "Stop, human," Moltrick said. His voice was calm, but his hands trembled. "You have won your battle, but I will not let you have your victory. What are you doing?" Sung-ho demanded. "The final protocol." Moltrick's black eyes gleamed with madness. "A planet killer, aimed at your precious Earth. If my empire falls, your world burns with it." Sung-ho's heart stopped. Earth. Billions of people. Everything humanity had ever built. "You would destroy an entire world out of spite." Moltrick laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You primitives taught me something human. Rocks can kill giants." He gestured at the control panel. "This is my rock. Watch your homeworld die." In orbit, Captain Yoon-hana received the same information. A planet killer weapon. Earth in its sights. Minutes until it fired. She looked at her damaged carrier. Her exhausted crew. Her depleted weapons. "How do we stop it?" she asked. Her tactical officer shook his head. "The weapon is heavily shielded. We would need a direct impact to destroy it. A ship flying at full speed into the firing mechanism. A suicide mission." Yoon thought about her life. Her family back on Earth. Her dreams of seeing the war end and building a peaceful future. Then she thought about what would happen if the weapon fired. "All crew, abandon ship," she ordered. "Get to the escape pods, now." Her officers stared at her. "Captain, what are you doing?" "Saving Earth." Yoon's voice was steady. "Go. That is an order." They went. Within minutes, the carrier was empty except for Yoon. She sat alone on her bridge, setting a collision course for the planet killer. But before she could activate the engines, a voice crackled over her radio. "Captain Yoon, this is the ESS Defiance. We see what you are doing. Stand down." Another voice joined. "This is the ESS Thunder. We are closer. Let us take this." Then another, and another. Ships from a dozen species, all volunteering to sacrifice themselves. Yoon felt tears on her cheeks. "Who will do it?" "We will do it together," came the reply. "All of us. We will hit that weapon with everything we have." "You have given enough, Captain. Let us give something too." 20 ships changed course. Human vessels, Thalox cruisers, Kryn destroyers, all flying toward the planet killer at maximum speed. They hit it together. The explosion lit up the sky above Valora Prime. The planet killer weapon shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. Its deadly payload scattered harmlessly into space. In the throne room, Moltrick watched the destruction of his final hope. His arms fell to his sides. His black eyes went empty. "It is over," Sung-Ho said. "Surrender." Moltrick looked at the human standing before him. A primitive. A creature who threw rocks. A being he had laughed at 10 years ago. Now that creature had destroyed his empire. Moltrick fell to his knees. "I surrender." The war was over. Months later, Admiral Park Do-in stood before a gathering of species from across the galaxy. Representatives from 100 worlds filled the Great Hall, all of them free for the first time in millennia. "We did not fight this war for conquest," Park said. "We did not fight for revenge. We fought because freedom is the right of every being in this galaxy. And today, that freedom is finally real." The Galactic Accord was signed that day. All species equal. All species free. No empire, no masters. Just people working together among the stars. Captain Yoon Hana survived. She was rescued from her damaged carrier by Allied ships, pulled from the wreckage with broken bones and a smile on her face. She would spend months recovering, but she would walk again. She would see the peace she had fought for. Commander Im Sung-Ho returned to what remained of New Bizen. He stood in the ashes where his family home once stood. He did not cry. He had no tears left. But he built a memorial there. A simple stone with simple words. They are remembered. Dr. Baek Jisoo returned to her laboratory on the moon. Project Sunfall was dismantled, its terrible components scattered across the solar system. She hoped no one would ever need such a weapon again. And on every liberated world, monuments rose. Different species built them in different ways. Some were towers of crystal. Some were gardens of alien flowers. Some were simple stones like Sung-Ho's memorial. But they all carried the same message. They laughed at our weapons. They forgot our will. Years passed. The galaxy healed. Old enemies became new friends. Children grew up in a universe where freedom was not a dream, but a reality. Admiral Park Do-in, now old and gray, visited a memorial on Earth. It listed the names of every human who had died in the war. Thousands of names carved in stone. A young alien child approached him. A Thalox, with blue skin and 4 curious eyes. She had come to Earth with her parents, tourists in a galaxy where such travel was finally safe. "Excuse me," she said in careful human words. "Are you the Admiral from the stories? The one who fought the hegemony?" Park smiled gently. "I am. Can I ask you something?" "Of course." The child tilted her head. "Why did humans fight so hard? You were small. Your weapons were old. Everyone thought you would lose. Why did you not give up?" Park looked at the memorial. At all those names. At all those lives given for freedom. Then he knelt down so he could look the child in her eyes. "Because someone had to," he said softly. "And we never forgot how." The child nodded slowly, as if she understood something important. Park stood and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was finally at peace. Different species working together. Old hatreds fading into history. A future bright with possibility. They had laughed at human weapons once. They would never laugh again.